What you're watching is an overview of the garden adventures of 2025 at the Wadsworth place. You're watching Kelly and the kids plant this corn in May. Kelly sprouted these corn starts last month in a little greenhouse, and Rosie and James, 4 years old each, are just barely old enough to actually help out a little bit putting these things in the ground. One of the biggest blessings of my life is that unexpectedly 3 of my 4 kids live right in our town, right in the same town. So I have 13 grandkids pretty much in the neighborhood. I was so tickled that Leo and Abraham could spare an afternoon to help me get the paper and the mint compost on around these tomato plants, because it's hard by myself. And these are very good boys, and they actually have an interest and a growing ability also to be helpful. So this dark, rich mint compost is super nice stuff. These are the leaves and stems of the mint plants that are growing up in the Willamette Valley, and the oil has all been cooked and pressed out of this stuff, and so there are no weed seeds in it. I mean, it is sterile, and it's uniform, and it's dark, and it's partially broken down. It lays nice and flat on the ground. It keeps the moisture in the ground, and when it is 3 or 4 inches thick over this packing paper, the weeds just don't have a chance. And then, after summer's over and the garden's torn out, I just till it right back in. So there are, I think, 3 things that you better be aware of if you're going to use this mint compost. And the first is it'll give you little bitty slivers. Not as bad as bark mulch, but bad enough. And my grandsons ran into that, but they powered on through it. The second is it's composting, and so it can get hot. Hot enough that if you pull a bucket load out and dump it on the top of a tomato plant, in just 20 or 30 seconds, that tomato plant is dead unless you make sure you get it brushed off in a hurry. So keep it off the plants until it cools off. Third, it's expensive. It's $60 a yard, and it shakes me up every year to buy 8 yards of it for my garden. But once it's in place and the plants are exploding with growth and the weeds are beaten down, I just realize over and over again that it's worth it. So this bit is filmed in mid-July, just past Midsummer's Eve. And it's midsummer beauty for sure. The sunflowers and zinnias are fantastic. What a difference Kelly's flowers make in this garden. The corn is almost producing because she got it a head start, sprouting it in the greenhouse. The basil and the onions are producing. We've had plenty of those already, but the tomatoes are slow. I mean slow. I watch those things, and we eat some when they're kind of orange, but the real ripe ones are not here yet. Lots of fruit is set on, and lots of fruit is still setting on, but there's nothing to speak of ready to go right now. So the west end of the garden was almost ignored, right? I didn't know what to do with it, and so we almost did nothing, but Nate's kids had planted some pumpkin seeds last Halloween at home. And they sprouted, and they grew, and they brought them out, and the sunflowers just volunteered like crazy. And so we got a little wilder, less regulated look down here on the end. And you know what? It makes a nice contrast. I like it. Late August is the time that the garden finally overwhelms us with the wonderful burden of its reckless bounty. Fortunately, my wife is a worker deluxe, and she accepts that challenge. She's picking, she's washing, she's peeling, she's slicing, she's cooking and canning, and today she's practicing her fiddle while she cans the applesauce. Don't want to waste the time just watching that stuff water bathing away. So now it's the first days of September, and the garden's a little weary, but it's still in full production. And we're a little weary too, but we're gorging ourselves on corn and tomatoes, especially the tomatoes. For us, everything else is pretty much window dressing in this garden. The tomato avalanche didn't get much camera attention, but out of 48 plants, I bet 90% of those tomatoes were eaten, canned, or given away. So picking the pumpkins was a party all its own. It was at the end of the season, just before Halloween and just before the willow tree got her haircut. By the way, Cowboy Tree Service did that again, just like they did 5 years ago, and did an excellent job. But I think we got 65 pumpkins off of 6 plants, something like that, because nature is generous, reliably generous. And I think that the kids were about 10 times more excited about these gourds than they ever were over the delicious homegrown tomatoes. The last thing that we planted in the garden this year was the crimson clover as a cover crop. And unlike last year, this time I think it's going to do exactly as we hoped. That's one of the lessons of a garden, for young and old alike, that sometimes optimism is rewarded exactly as we hoped and dreamed, and sometimes it's rewarded with other harder, even sometimes painful, lessons, also blessings. But in a garden, much more so than with a fishing pole, everything that happens is an opportunity to learn and grow and be smarter for the next year. Besides that, there's nothing like partnering with God in tending a garden. It puts us in a place to see and feel and taste the love and the power of the earth that He built for us. Thanks for watching Essential Craftsman, and keep up the good work.